Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie, and today I'm speaking with Noah Bleich, founder of the TeaBook. Welcome, Noah. So nice to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm super excited. Always
So,
fun to spill the tea.
so the TeaBook, or rather, your company is the TeaBook, and what you
Yes.
do is you offer, or you have this book where people can basically collect this artistic-y tea, and you also create different flavors of tea and products. So it's got a social justice spin because you're always looking to do good for others as part of your mission. But
Correct.
it's also a bunch of different flavors of tea that people can enjoy and share.
Yes, exactly. There's two things we say is first, we're the only food product I know of that you've already enjoyed and you haven't even tried it yet. Because you just love the art and the puns that we do. And so then when you try it, it's also really good. Going along with that social justice, all of our teas are organic and kosher. That was very important because I wasn't going to make an inorganic tea. And most teas, sadly, are not organic; they are inorganic. And we also use a tea bag instead of those plastic pyramids, which are from corn silk, which really are not made from corn silk. They're plastic. And so, yes, we have the different flavors. And then we had themes for each series we introduced. So our first one, because we have a book, we introduced is called Literary. And so the
Of course.
literary, yep. We have our Shakespeare Mint, Agatha Christie, and Mark Twainquility. And those are our authors. We have a bunch of other authors we want to do, like Oscar Wildeberry, Oolong Fellow. But again, it costs us a lot. It costs about $5,000 for each tea run we invent. And so again, you have to have that capital to produce it.
What is your whole process of creating the flavors and the puns?
Sure.
What does that look like?
So the first is, what series do you want to do? So literary. The second question in literary is of the people we choose, we have a PositiviTEA test. Did they add more positivity to the world than they took? Because we all have problems. We all do bad things. We also all do really good things. So let's say we went literary. We said, all right, what are the most famous authors that we could do? And then the other thing, because we try to stay within the confines of the law, is what is public domain? Who can we use without having to license? One product we did license from the artist, and another one we do actually donate to that person's estate, not because we have to, but because we wanted to. And so Shakespeare mint, you think of mint, right? So that's a pure mint. It's a really good tea. The Agatha Christie, she was a classic English writer. So that is an Earl Grey, which is a classic English tea. Mark Twainquility, what do you think about when you think about tranquility?
I usually don't think Mark Twain because he was just all over the place. But okay,
I meant
let's
from a
go with
tea
it.
perspective. From a tea perspective, you think of tranquility, you think of
Calming,
sure. And what flavor
right?
comes to mind?
Oh, is it like a chamomile?
Yep, it's a chamomile and fruit tea. And so we again we play with the there's many different ways to do puns. One is with words, another is with images, and another is with context. And when you combine those in cool little formulas, they come out perfectly. We joke that we test all of our jokes on dads to make sure they're not dad jokes because those just make you cringe, and puns just make you chuckle. Yeah. So the
So,
series. So that was the first one we did. We moved on next to equality. And that one we have a Martin Luther King Black Equality, and that's an English breakfast, which is the most popular tea in the world. People are like, oh, this tea, but English breakfast. Then we made a Harriet Tubman one. Her original name was Araminta Ross, and so and her nickname was Minty. So it's a mint orange spice tea in her honor. And then the third one in that series was Marie Curie. Now the problem with Marie Curie was it doesn't really pun well with tea. So context puns. So the flavor is radiant hibiscus. So, so if you know enough about her history and her life, you'll get why that's a good pun.
where does the art come in? Do you work with different artists to
Yeah.
create?
So the goal was to create a gallery of art on tea, and so we've worked with 9 different artists. One of them is semi-famous. He was the first nationally syndicated Black cartoonist in America. He had a comic strip, I think it's still around actually, called Jumpstart. It's in Sunday strips. His name is Rob Armstrong, and we worked really well together. That one's actually kind of funny. And I know, again, we're going to go another mile past food, but we did it and we drew it with him, and it's a Berry Obama tea. And then about a month before COVID, I get calls and emails from the foundation asking me all these questions. And I'm like, oh no, they're going to sue me, even though it's perfectly within anyone's legal rights to do political satire. So they're like, all right, we really love it. Will you donate the art to the Obama Museum? And I'm like, yes, I will. And so sometimes the things that you think are going to end up negative end up being positive.
Well, and you said before, it's all about positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
And making the world a better place. So
Yeah.
what is it about tea that you love about it that everybody seems to love about tea?
It's a great thing. I think there's a whole slew of things that are really cool, and everyone's going to, just like I said about art being something that we project our own feelings and biases and opinions onto. I'm an environmentalist by degree. My degree is in biology, environmental science. Went to Brandeis University. Little shout out. Whoop, whoop. And tea is about 70% more green ecologically than coffee. Part of it has to do with the science of what we do. When you drink coffee, you're taking the bean, the fruit of the tree. And when trees produce fruit of any kind, they have to put as much resources as they can into producing that fruit. It takes a lot of water, a lot of nutrients. When you drink tea, you're drinking the leaf. And the leaf is very fast. We don't have as many seasons here, but back east, spring comes, and within like 2-3 weeks, you already have little tea buds, right? Little buds on your tree. So it's more ecological for the tree to produce the tea than it is for it to produce the fruit, which is what coffee is. It's also a lot less intense process to harvest and roast. And I know a lot of coffee people are like, I'm drinking my coffee. Okay, you can drink your coffee. It's fine. But again, so ecologically, it has a personal connection to me. The second is the flexibility of the tea plant to grow in places and transport it. It's very light. Right? It's not a heavy substance. We ship our product. We use the U.S. Postal Service because it's usually less than a pound. So that extra lightness also makes it more popular. And the third thing is, I think it's mild. Right? So tea wakes you up, the caffeine. And this is kind of fun. You can do this at home. If you Google coffee and t-shirts, right? It's going to be angry. Don't talk to me before my coffee. I will kill you before my coffee. Oh, I need coffee. It's aggressive and angry. Google tea and t-shirts, and what you're going to see is it's the opposite. Life is beautiful. It's going to work out. Stay calm. And part of that is the science of it, because tea is very high in L-theanine, which is an amino acid that relaxes you. People sometimes take them as supplements, but it just really calms you down. So you get that alertness with a little bit of relaxation. And coffee doesn't have as much as that. The second thing, and this is a question I get often asked a lot, and as a foodie, you'll probably appreciate, is which has more caffeine, tea or coffee? Right. And I think anything in the food industry you'll see is it depends. Right. Per pound, tea has way more caffeine. But you don't use pounds of tea, you use an ounce. Not even an ounce. You use like 2 grams. Our bags are 2 grams. That's it. Versus when you use coffee, you use a giant mound of it. You're like, And so you're going to get a lot more caffeine out of that because you're using a lot more product. So tea is the highest in caffeine. The second question is, which is big green tea, black tea, which one has more caffeine? And it really comes down more to how long you brew it. Right? The longer you steep your tea, then the more caffeine will come out of it. You'll also get, if you're doing like a darker tea, you also get more astringency. You get more of those tannins that we talked about, which is why sometimes when you drink tea, especially black teas, you might get a stomach irritant. Your stomach is a little nauseous, especially if you haven't eaten anything. And that's from the tannins, which is why in the British, they put cream in their tea. That's a great way to reduce the tannins, because the tannins will get broken down by the proteins in the cream.
And so I have to backtrack you. We talked about tannins before we hit record.
Oh, we did. Okay.
So now you're just confusing people. But I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you the question that spurred the tannin conversation, which is, what are the best foods to pair with tea?
Right, and that is a great question. I think as a tea lover, I don't drink coffee. I'll confess. I've only had it twice in my life, um, and you can pair it with pretty much anything. But generally, a lot of people do the greens and the whites as more of like a desserty light flavor. You'll sometimes see like matcha stuff. Like you'll have like a um, matcha tiramisu. Was just at a restaurant I was at. Matcha ice cream. It's more green teas are a little more lighter, so they're part of the desserty world. And then for the heavier stuff, you're going to want to pair with a black tea. I personally like a lot of oolongs because it's halfway between a black and a green, and it's a little smoother. And so, but those would pair like if you're having like a heavier meal, or I would say honestly, if you're a coffee drinker, a lot of coffee drinkers come to our booths when we have events, and they're like, "What's the closest thing you have to coffee?" And I'm like, Earl Grey tea. It's really bitter, very dark. So those would be my suggestions for pairings. Not that you can't. I've had amazing Earl Grey shortbread cookies. Delicious. You know, just interject what you would normally do, but just throw in tea instead of a water. And you're going to get that Earl Grey flavoring.
Ooh, interesting. So it's amping up the flavor by using tea instead of water.
I know also globally, it's very popular in Burmese salads. If you ever go to a Burmese restaurant, they have a green tea salad, and they'll throw just take it's a leaf, just like any other kind of plant. Just take it, crumble it up, and throw it into your salad, and you're gonna have green tea salad. So you get that little caffeine, a little bit of green tea, and a lot of taste.
And where did your love of tea come from?
I think it comes from I went to this Limud LA event, and the event was on food and Judaism, or it was smell and Judaism. It was one of those. I think they go hand in hand. And people were talking about like people who are not really associated with almost any like other Jewish aspects, still talked about how every time I smell chicken soup, I think of my mom. I think of being Jewish. And I think there's that connection for me for tea is it's Shabbos. You're having tea, right? It reminds me of those dinners. It reminds me of all of those connections to my Jewishness. It's also most teas are kosher. You don't really have, some people say you don't even need a hechsher if it's just straight tea because it's just the leaf. And so there's that Jewish connection to it. Then there's another connection which is it helps you relax. It feels good, right? And we all want to feel good. At the end of the day, we want that happiness, that joyfulness, and I think tea brings that to you. It also, because it is so caffeine is it's called a psychotropic drug. It is a drug. Anyone who says otherwise is lying to you. And so what it does is it's one of the few drugs that can pass the blood-brain barrier, which is why it affects us and makes us alert. And so it's something that literally goes into the heart of our brains, pun intended, because our hearts are separate. It goes into the heart of our brains and it stimulates us. And that to me is part of life, that joy to love and live life.
Great answers. And so we know why you love tea. Why do you think people love your tea so much? Because it's like all over the place.
I'm glad it is just not on the floor, hopefully, because you want to eat it. And people are like always doing the joke, spill the tea, which I started off in the beginning, and I'm like, I joke about it, but I'm like, please don't spill your tea. Like, just drink it. It's so I think what people love about our tea in particular is first, it's the organic. People get very excited about it. But just like our art, we toy with history and make these beautiful, colorful creations. We do so with our flavors. We have a Frida Kahlo tea. It's called Frida Kahlo, and it's a watermelon rose hibiscus tea. And even we use it in the food industry. For those of you who don't know it, a lot of your products that have other brands on it that you love are actually made and packed by another company, and they're called co-packers. So tea machine is very expensive. There's a lot more regulations to pack tea than to just redistribute tea. So we use a co-packer, and he had never made a watermelon flavored tea before. And he's like, "Are you sure it's going to be a good combination?" And I'm like, "Trust me, watermelon is going to be amazing." And now he actually makes his own watermelon tea under his brand, and it's not ours. So that unique playing with flavors, right? You know, it's like people I'm a vegetarian, so when I would cook for Shabbat dinners, it was always vegetarian. Although no one left my house hungry. Usually they felt bloated because they ate so much. But we used to make these veggie bacon wrapped dates stuffed with pecans and goat cheese. Delicious. But people were like, "Oh, bacon and dates," and people don't appreciate sweet and salty as a combination that just tickles your taste buds, right? And so watermelon rose hibiscus is that same way. It's probably one of our most popular flavors when people try it. And here again, we talked about again the meanings and flavors. What's cool? Do you know why it's a watermelon rose hibiscus? I guess. Okay, here it comes.
Oh,
So the
well, I think it has something to do with the rose, right?
both the rose and the watermelons, they are connected.
Okay.
That's a very good. You're getting on it. You're right. You're on the right T track. And so the first painting Frida Kahlo ever did was of a rose, and she gave it to her sister. And the last painting she ever did was of the watermelon, Viva watermelons. If you Google it, you'll see. So this is her entire life from start to end as a tea flavor. So her art as an expression, we took that expression and turned it into a flavor of tea. And it's, I think, one of my favorites. And so that's one of the cool things you could do. The other, we also integrate, I'll show up a picture here. You can't see it, I know, for those who are listening, but it's a Diego Rivera. And Diego Rivera was actually Jewish. His mom was a converso. So if you go by the lineage of the mother, then she was Jewish. And so he did once or twice mention how being Jewish was a significant part of what helped him inspire him to be an artist. And so this is the Diego. We hide little cool things in our teas, little pictures for you to find about him. This is a hot cinnamon tea. There because the Mexican cinnamon is very famous, and it has chilies, which is also very associated with Mexican culture. So we do all this cool, again, flavor and art. I mean, you're a foodie, right?
I hope so.
Food is an art, right? I can give 10 people the exact same ingredients, and everyone will taste different. One might be horrible, and one might be amazing, because it's that art of making food that we appreciate so much. And my sister-in-law is also a pastry chef, so that helps. So I totally get the difference between my pastries and her pastries.
But are they pastries or are yours teas?
Oh, nice. Well played.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Noah, for sharing your love of tea, and not only your love of it, but the benefits of it and what you've created through the tea book. Where can people learn more about you and your tea?
Now, you could always go to our website, TeaBook.com, and you can always reach out to us. We're also willing to do any kind of events, any kind of charities. We're always willing to support. You can hit me up if you have other questions about me. If you have questions about tea. Two that we get a lot that are, which tea will help me lose weight? Like, there is no tea that will help you lose weight. It's just mostly something they're trying to sell you. Or which tea will help you detox? There is no tea that will help you detox. You have a liver and a kidney. That's their jobs. Just don't put crap in your body. And so, yeah, that's basically, so more information like that, let me know.
Excellent. Well, thank you for spilling the tea on tea. And thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube and or your favorite podcast platform. And you can go to jewishjournal.com/podcast to read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Whatever you're cooking, whatever you're eating, make sure there's tea involved. It's good for you. Until next time, bon appetit. Oh, bon appetit.
Eat.